What is up, book nerds? I am Rachel Bateman, and we are at the end of week 2 of NaNoWriMo, halfway through. How are you doing? I am starting my writing session as soon as I get done filming this video, and I'm currently just under 32,000 words, which sounds really great for the end of week 2, but I do try to write the whole book during November, not just 50,000 words, so I'm actually a little behind where I like to be, but I'm feeling good about the book, and I have a full day of writing ahead of me, so I'm not too concerned about it. Last week, I talked about how motivation wanes, and in order to get a book written, you need to be dedicated to writing it, not just motivated. So this week, I would like to take some time to give some tips and tricks you can use to keep pushing through and writing even when you don't have any motivation. When you are feeling completely unmotivated to write, I have 5 tips to help you get through and get the work done anyway. Tip number 1 is to use a word crawl. I talked about this in my last minute tips for NaNoWriMo video, but I am going to reiterate how incredibly useful word crawls can be. If you go on the NaNoWriMo forums, there are tons of word crawls, some of them very, very intricate, but I really like simple word crawls. Again, I'm going to share my favorite. It is the word crawl for the motivationally challenged, and it breaks it down into tiny little increments. When I am feeling absolutely unmotivated to write, I could look down on this and say 10 words. I could write 10 words and just work my way through 10 words, 15 words, 25 words, 50 words, and it builds up to eventually you're doing 200 words, and then it takes you back down and kind of just gives you varied word counts. All 200 words are fewer, so you can push through. Now, when I use this, I never write just 10 words. I'll be like, okay, I only have to write 10 words. So I'll bust out a little bit, and sure enough, it's 17 or 18 words. So by the end, I've actually written even more than I planned. But using something like this word crawl, which I will link to the free printable down below again, in case you're interested in that, so you don't have to go searching for it, using something like this word crawl or any of the word crawls you can find in the NaNoWriMo forums really just helps push me through when I don't feel like doing the writing. Tip number 2 to write when you're not feeling motivated is to use word sprints, which again I've talked about before, but a word sprint is different from a word crawl in that instead of trying to get a certain number of words or just kind of crawl your way through, you are sprinting, meaning you are taking a time period and writing as fast as you can. When you force yourself to write as fast as you can, it forces you to just turn off all that doubt and to turn off the inner editor and all the things that are holding you back from writing and do it. I like to do, when I am feeling motivated, very long sprints, like 45 minutes of just pounding out as many words as possible. But when you're not feeling motivated, tell yourself 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. That's all I have to do. Sit down and do those 10 minutes and then stop. And give yourself a break. Let yourself go for a walk. Give yourself a chapter of reading. Something. If you do 10 minutes a few times a day, you can actually get a pretty decent word count by the end of the day. So instead of sitting down and thinking, I have to write almost 2,000 words today and I'm not motivated and how am I going to do it? Tell yourself 10 minutes. I am going to dedicate this 10 minutes of my life to writing as much as I can and just get it out. Now, if you're flowing at the end of 10 minutes, you don't have to stop. But if you get to the end of 10 minutes and you want to stop, that's fine because you were doing a 10-minute sprint. You don't need to do more than that. Take a break and come back in an hour and do another 10 minutes. If you had a full day that you were planning to write and you're just not feeling like writing, if you did 10 minutes every half an hour or even 10 minutes every hour, throughout the day, you will get a fair amount of words written. Tip number 3 for writing when you're not feeling motivated is to skip forward and write the exciting scenes. I actually have never done this because I am very much a right from the beginning to the end kind of writer. But if you are someone who is able to skip around and write out of order, if you're looking forward to a certain scene, just write that one. Get it going. When you're excited about a scene, it'll help get the juices flowing and get you started in writing. So if you're not feeling like writing, skip ahead and do something you're very excited about. It doesn't work for me, again, because during my first drafts, I'm very, very beginning to end. I can skip around during edits and add things in, but first draft, I go beginning to end. But I do know a lot of authors that this works very well for. So if you feel like that might work for you, go ahead and give it a try. All right, tip number 4 for writing when I'm not motivated is to give myself some external motivation. During NaNoWriMo, or anytime I am drafting a book, I like to have little mini goals that I'm going for, and I'll give myself rewards every 10,000 or so words. And typically it's stuff that like I've been looking forward to doing or getting, and like I want a new pair of boots. And I almost bought a new pair of boots in October, and I was like, you know what? No. When I hit 40,000 words in this book, then I'll buy a new pair of boots. So I'm at almost 32,000 words now, and I'm hoping to hit 40,000 today. So next time I go to Target, I can buy the boots that I want. I set these little goals all the way through, and anytime when I'm writing a book and I find something that I want or want to do, I'm like, okay, well that can be the prize for that word count, because it keeps me pushing to get the things I want. On a daily basis when I'm writing, I am a big fan of candy. I like sugar, and so I get candy for certain word counts. Like, I really like Smarties because they're tiny, and so I can be like, oh, I get a Smartie for every 100 words I write. Because if I had like, oh, I'm going to have a mini Snickers for every 100 words I write, I'd be so sick at the end of the day. But Smarties are small, so I really like Smarties because I could break it up into tiny little word count goals if I'm struggling. I also like taffy for, well, I just like taffy. So these are my motivation tools for my writing session today. And finally, tip number 5 for writing when you're not feeling motivated to write is to find yourself an alpha reader. We talk about critique partners and beta readers all the time, people who really help us shape our book, critique partners as we're going, and then beta readers who we give the whole book at the end to give us feedback and help us through edits. An alpha reader is different. An alpha reader is that person you are sending the book to as you're writing it. Finding someone who you've sent your first 3 chapters to and they are salivating for chapter 4 will help push you to keep writing. When you have someone waiting to read what you're writing, you'll keep moving. Bonus points if this someone is a person who is overly enthusiastic about your work. Now, I found my first alpha reader when I was writing 99 Days of LANEY MACGUIRE, and that person, Ashley, is now my longtime critique partner. And I actually no longer send Ashley stuff as I am writing it. I prefer to write to the end and then send it to her because that's just how I prefer to work. But having her waiting for chapters as I was writing 99 Days of LANEY MACGUIRE is what got that book finished. You know, Stephanie Meyer very famously, when she was writing Twilight, she had the dream and she started writing from the meadow scene on, and she sent it to her sister, and her sister's enthusiasm prompted her to go ahead and write the rest of the book. This is a very common thing, and if you are struggling to be motivated to write, find an alpha reader. Maybe that's your sister or your mom or a cousin or a best friend. Maybe you get on the NaNoWriMo forums and just fill things out and you decide you're going to partner up with another writer and trade back and forth. The big thing for me about an alpha reader relationship is that it's not necessarily a critique partner. It's not necessarily someone who's going to be giving feedback on your work. They are not there to edit your work. They are not there to tell you, oh, maybe you should do it this way instead. They are not there to tell you what is not working. An alpha reader, for me at least, an alpha reader's primary job is to be your cheerleader. They are wanting to read it as it's coming out. They are enthusiastic about it. They are cheering you on to get to the end of your book. Okay, those are my 5 tips to write when you are not feeling motivated. At the end of week 2 is when we start to see a ton of Rymos dropping off and quitting and not pushing forward to the end because motivation is really waning for a lot of people right now. So I really hope these tips help you to be able to push through that and keep going and keep writing, because getting to the end and saying, I did it, and pushing through and finishing your book is an incredible thing. So I am going to hop off now and go write my own words so I can do that as well. I am Rachel Bateman, and I will see you back here next week.